Coming up on episode 322 of Wheel Bearings, we've got the Chevy Trax, the Subaru Crosstrek, Ford Maverick Tremor, the GoCycle, and a whole bunch of stuff from the Japan Mobility Show, including the Mazda Iconic SP concept, the Infiniti Vision Qe concept, driving the Nissan Sakura EV and the X-Trail e-Power, and more. All that coming up next. This is episode 322 of Wheel Bearings. I'm Sam Salmon from Guidehouse Insights, and I'm back from Asia.
Oh, sorry. I thought you normally stop after Guidehouse Insights. I cut you off. And back from Asia, yes. Welcome back, Sam. We missed you last week.
Oh, you guys did a great job without me. You don't need me.
No, we totally do. There was no engineering man on hand for all my engineering questions. It was horrible not having you here. And I am Nicole Wakelam from The Road Reflected.
And I am Roberto Baldwin from SAE International.
And shall we start with Nicole?
Sure.
And I have no idea what you're going to talk about because you haven't filled in the rundown.
I did. It's there.
Nothing.
Nope, there's a blank. Oh, there it is. I just had to click
it's
somewhere.
There.
Okay.
I'm like, wait, did I put it on the wrong
Now I see
link?
it.
Okay, see, now you know what I'm going to talk about. Okay. So first, what I'm going to talk about is the 2023 Ford Maverick Tremor XLT. So I have the Maverick, which is, it's kind of neat because it's the smallest of the Ford trucks because they have, lots of trucks because it's Ford. But there's the Ranger, which is like, I think of it as most compact truck sizes, like the Tacoma or the Frontier or those guys. But the Maverick's like a little bit more compact, it's a little bit less. It's like the lesser truck. It's a little smaller in dimensions, a little smaller and everything, and it's way cheaper. So I looked at the base price for the 24. There is almost a $10,000 difference between the base price of a Maverick and the base price of a Ranger. So if you want a little compact pickup truck and you're like, I can't afford that, well, now you've got something you can afford. So it's very much the truck for people who want little truck capability, but don't necessarily have a huge budget. And I feel like it's kind of stands alone in that regard. There aren't affordable options that can do what the Maverick can do in its size. And it's a pretty capable truck. The Tremor is the off-road. I mean, they've had the Tremor package for other models in the Ford lineup. So this adds it to the Ranger. The Maverick, it was new for 23. They didn't do it the introductory year, but it's there for 23 and it's there for the 24. And that gives it a little bit more capability in terms of off-roading. Like you get a locking rear diff and 5 drive modes. There's trail control, which is that, manages your throttle and your brakes. So you can just steer if you're in conditions where a little bit like have to focus just on steering off-road, which is kind of nice. It has a lift. It's got in mechanical upgrades like springs and dampers. So basically it's the off-road trim that was missing for the first year of the Maverick, which is kind of nice that they did that. And then for 24, it's weird. I'm driving a 23, but you can only get 24s. I think the 23s are completely gone.
They're gone.
Yeah, they finished building those. And
yeah, so it's kind of weird. So I have a 23 in my driveway, but I'm like, yeah, this isn't quite what it's going to be. So for 24, they changed things up. There's a graphics package that I think is now standard. It puts like little Tremor graphics on the hood that look pretty cool. And they flip-flop. The engines are the same, but what's standard and what's optional change. It was at the standard hybrid with an available gas engine. Now it's a standard gas engine with an available hybrid. They flip-flop things for 24.
Well, they found that the hybrid was so popular,
mm-hmm.
way more popular than they expected, because it's, I think, over 50% of sales were the hybrid. They decided, well, we need to take advantage of this, and so instead of making the hybrid $1,500 cheaper than the gas engine, we'll make it $1,500 more expensive than the gas engine.
Exactly. So if you want the hybrid, you're going to have to pay a premium for it, because bean counters figured that out. Go bean counters, go. But boo for the average human who now has to pay more if you want to get the hybrid. And I think there's still, from what I understand with the Maverick, it's still impossible to get your hands on one. They're still really in short supply. I know some people who ordered them that are just now getting them, and they ordered months ago. So,
sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
So I'm building a Maverick because that's the thing I like to do when I'm bored.
Yes.
And I built an XL and I threw the hybrid engine. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't have an extra cost on it now.
Oh,
This is the
Really?
2024. This is in the Ford's configure
Oh,
Which-
I don't know.
configurator.
That doesn't
Which,
seem right at all.
XL.
Which
This is
trim-
the XL.
Oh, the XL.
Yeah.
See, when I did that,
Are we all going
I've got
to
it open
Ford?
here. It shows the base price for the XL with the 2-liter EcoBoost at $23,400, and when I click on hybrid, it goes to $24,900.
See, what does it do? Why is
Okay,
it,
well, you guys try and build. I'm
All
going
right.
to try and build as I'm talking too, but so I'm going to build and talk. Let's see how well I can multitask. So I like the Maverick. I think it's a good option for people who want a more affordable truck, and I also think it's nice because you have so many options when it comes to crossovers and it comes to SUVs and even sedans. Where if you want something cheap that still does the job, that has room for people, that has room for cargo, you have a million different options. You just don't have that with trucks. You have these full-size trucks that are stupidly expensive, even in their base trims, and they're big. When you want something smaller, and a lot of people like a little truck is what you need. You just want to carry a little bit of mulch. You just want to do a little bit of cargo. You just want a little bit of off-road. When you don't need that and you want that like over-the-top capability, and you also want to be able to fit into a spot at the parking lot without having to consider carefully whether the guys next to you on either side have parked exceptionally close to the little yellow line. You're like, well, now I won't be able to get out of my car. Like, it's so much more manageable to have these. So I am a fan of the Maverick, and because it starts at 23. Now it looks like 23. Like I had the XLT, which is I think the middle one because there's a Lariat, and the Lariat's higher. I have the Tremor package, so I get funky stuff inside. Like there's all these orange accents everywhere, including like embossed stuff on the seats, so it looks a little fancier. Like the badging makes it look a little upgraded, but it's still not a super expensive truck, and it still doesn't feel like premium. I don't think you can really get a Maverick that's going to make you say like, wow, this is a nice truck inside, but you're also not paying the price you're paying for the wild trucks. And it's easier to drive around than the great big trucks. So I'm a fan of the Maverick. I think it's great. The Tremor does lose, it tows up to 2,000 pounds. I think it's a 200-pound decrease from other trims in the lineup. So it tows slightly less if towing is a huge priority for you. Payload of 1,200 pounds. It's got all these cool orange accents on the outside because apparently now orange or bronze, depending on who you like to speak to and what you want to call your color for your marketing department.
Looks orange to me.
It's orange is like, well, but some of them have ones that they like, some OEMs are like, this looks orange. This looks orange to me. It's actually a bronzed amber or something. I'm like, okay, fine. It's orange. It's like the color of off-road, right? It's like, right? I'm like, you can call it whatever you want. It's orange, but it's like the off-road color. Like you put orange on it, suddenly poof, you're an off-road trim of your vehicle. Everybody does it. Honda, the Trail Sport has orange. Subaru, the Wilderness has orange. Like everybody puts orange on everything. And I guess they're all ready for Halloween too, right? Because we're seasonally appropriate with the orange accents on everything. So I do like the Maverick. I think it does the job. It's hard to get because supply has kind of been sparse on the Maverick. So if you want it, speak now and hopefully have it eventually, unless you just want to take whatever they got on your local dealer lot. And you can't get the 23. I would have the 23. You can't get the 23. For 24, though, it's really just they've changed up what's standard and available for the engine, but it's the same engine. They just flip-flop which is standard and which is optional. And they changed up little things. So there's no significant difference between 23 and 24. It's not like, oh, God, I can't get what I wanted. You can still get what you wanted to a slightly different configuration. You'll be just fine. So I'm a fan of the Maverick. Do you guys like the Maverick? You both drove it, right?
Oh, yeah. I love the Maverick.
Maverick,
yeah,
as far as I'm concerned.
And as you said, I would never recommend the Lariat. But the same is true for the Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to buy one of these, you buy an XL or an XLT. And really, the X, if you don't want the slightly off-roaderish capability of the Tremor, the XL is the sweet spot with the steel wheels.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's I think 4 or 5 of them in my neighborhood right now, including my next door neighbor. They got one of the very early XL hybrids with the steel wheels and everything. And it's a great size. It can haul, all the mulch that most people need in a single load.
All the mulch, all of it.
And as you said, you get in, it doesn't feel expensive. It doesn't feel premium, but for the price you're paying, it feels good. There's nice
Right.
texturing. It's hard plastic, but it's nicely textured.
Right.
There's a lot of cool features, with the way they've got the cutouts and the armrests and the doors. So
and the doors,
big
you
bottles.
can put a giant bottle of water. Like, those giant bottles of water, like you need to drink this over the course of the day. You can practically jam one of those in the doors because of the way they've done the cutout so that it'll fit big water bottles. So that's actually kind of cool. By the way, I'm building this on the Lariat. It does not change pricing between engines, but if you're building the XL or the XLT, then it changes prices. I just went through it on
changes price.
So for the XL, there's $1,500. For the XLT, it's $1,500. For the Lariat, there is not a premium, at least according to the 2024 build.
See, on mine, it actually shows a lower price for the hybrid because it shows the price at $34,855 for the gas Lariat and $34,135. But I'm guessing if I look carefully here, the Lariat, the gas Lariat comes standard with all-wheel drive, and you can't get all-wheel drive with the hybrid, which is the one downside on the Maverick.
Oh yeah.
Because this is built on the same platform as the Escape and the Bronco Sport, and you can get the Escape hybrid with all-wheel drive, but you cannot get it on the Maverick for reasons.
Again, as marketing people, they have reasons. Nobody really follows them, but I'm sure there's reasons, right?
So that's the one exception, but on the XL and XLT, you will pay extra for the hybrid.
Yes. Yeah. So, I think the Maverick's great. So I'm pro Maverick, and I love it. The picture they have here, when I went looking at the XL, it is little steel wheels. There's something fabulous about like steel wheels in the vehicle. It's like, they're like,
especially on a truck.
Right? On a truck, you're like, I don't need your fancy. Just give me steel wheels and set me out there and I'm good to go. I love how this looks. We get it with the steel wheels. I love how those look.
Yeah. So, no, it's a great vehicle. And, even at the increased price, I mean, they've increased the price several times since it launched. Even at the higher price now, it's still a very good value.
Yeah, it's higher than it was, but it's still great a value. Like it's not one of those where suddenly they've priced it to a point where you're like, well, now it doesn't make sense. Now it's not the value it was. Now it's not it's just a little bit more expensive, but still a value compared to things like the Ranger that you could get. And even with it, it's its own little animal.
And my neighbors actually have this tiny little trailer that they found.
Do they really?
That they can camp in. I mean, it's like a crazy small trailer. But it's big enough that, like the two of them can sleep in there. Basically, it's like a pop-up tent on wheels.
Yeah, that's all you need, right? If that's all you're looking for, then you're good.
Yeah.
So the other thing I had this week, this is the first time I've ever ridden one of these, period, the end. I had a GoCycle, which is an electric bike. You guys, I rode an electric bike for 2.5 seconds at like an auto show when they had them. They have the area with the electric scooters and stuff. Like, do you want to ride this? I'm like, sure. And I rode it like around inside the little convention center and the teen little thing. That's it. But then they reached out and said, do you want it? Do you want to actually drive, like have one for a little while? Like to play around with it? I have a GoCycle in my garage right now. And I am not a huge bike person. Like I haven't done tons of biking, but I love riding bikes. It's just one of those things. I don't know. Somehow I don't have the time for it. But now that I have this, I'm like, well, we're going to make some time for it. I'm going to play around with this little toy. So yesterday I'm going to call it as the last decent fall day that we will have and the last decent day that we will have in New England until spring, because it got up to almost 80 degrees. Today's high is 52.
Decent day.
So this is it. Yesterday was like, embrace it now, say goodbye. You're not going to see this kind of sun and warmth for a good 6 months. So everybody was out. Like the entire town, everybody was outside.
The entire state was outside.
The entire state was outside yesterday. So there's this beautiful park down the street for me that has a combination of like dirt trails, like not loose dirt, like packed dirt trails with like knobby roots in the way, and then some paved trails. And if you go far enough on this, you can actually go all the way through the park, out the other side, and you come out by this fantastic coffee shop in downtown Nashua. So you can go all that distance, but it's like about 3 miles. So if you walk it, and there's some hills, it's a good walk. Like you're committed to a 6-hour walk for the day. And if you're biking it, there's some serious uphills and serious downhills. So depending on your endurance and how you feel about that coming back part of things, you've got a 6-mile bike ride, you know, all told, and it can be a lot. So I'm like, let's do this. Let's go there. Let's see what this is like. It was so fun. I know they're supposed to make this. The idea is that it's supposed to be the commuter bicycle, the urban e-bike, so you can use it in the city. And they like, you know, I get that that's it. But this thing was fabulous, not in the city. We're not in the city, in the middle of nowhere in New Hampshire. It was so nice because so we get all the way out there and we've got this 3-mile trek back and it's very hot and like we've been used to 50 and now suddenly it's almost 80 and it seemed like a great idea. And I'm like, well, now I'm hot. Now it's hot. I don't want to do this. But now I have my fancy little e-bike with the little electric motor buzzing along. It was so much fun to ride and it's so easy. Like you can adjust it so that you can have it automatically do everything like it, and it's all based on torque. You can set it really low, so it takes very little effort on your part for the electric motor to kick in and be like, oh, you want some help. Or you can adjust it higher if you're feeling like Ironman triathlon, and then it doesn't kick in unless you were really working it, like up a really big hill. And then, of course, on the fly, you can just like, I want the electric motor now, and you twist this little thing and boom, you have your electric motor. It was so easy to drive. It was so much fun. And then there's like lights on the handlebars that tell you things like there's daytime running lights on your bike. I love that they're actually called daytime running lights. I'm like, is that official? It's just light. Isn't it just a light on a bicycle? But anyway, DRLs on your bike. And it shows you because you can have it like high or low, and then you can have it blink. So it can be high and it can pulse, or it can be low and it can pulse. So I think the idea is for people to see you, although I didn't drive it at night. I guess you could drive it at night and then you'd have a certain amount of light, but it's on your handlebars. It's not like it's pointing at the ground. So I think it's more for people to see that you're coming. It shows you what gears you're in because there's like 3 gears. It shows you how fast you're going in little red pips. It's all little red pips. It's all makes me think of like all I could think of was the old video games like Pong, where it's like 4 dots, like it's just all dots. It's all dots to tell you. You have to just understand dots. So it sounds like it's lame, but it's actually just really simply like, oh, those are my daytime running light dots. Those are my gear indicator dots. These are my speed indicator dots. But it has these little rubber straps that come with it that like wrap over that, and you can put your phone right in there. And I was a little bit nervous about it because there's an app. I'm like, yeah, but how securely does it hold your phone? And the woman said, no, I was nervous about that too. But I've used mine. I've had no problems on it. It really does hold it. And we went bouncing around this whole 6-mile trek through trails up and down, and it didn't budge. So it actually holds it really snugly in place. And then your app gives you, like, that's where it's like the sweet. It's kind of like, you have an app for your car. You can do everything in the car, but then you want to like have an EV and you want to adjust your charging times and do this and do preconditioning and set all these different things. And you have all these like, Nissan Connect or whatever. So you can do extra stuff that's easy. You can manage from wherever. This lets you do all sorts of extra stuff. It gives you a lot more control over your drive experience. Is it still a drive?
Ride.
Your ride experience. I'm so used to saying car terms. I'm like, drive isn't the right thing. Your ride experience. So I really enjoyed driving it and riding in it, biking it. I'm saying drive. I'm driving a bike. I'm going to say drive and no one can stop me. I really enjoyed it. And here's the thing. So I wasn't sure because the wheels are like thin. Like if you do a lot of biking, like my husband bikes a lot and he has wheels on his bike that are really fat, knobby tires. So when you're in the dirt and on like little roots and stuff, these actually did okay on packed dirt. Like I feel like I would want to upgrade the tires if I was keeping, which I technically it's now you're going to change, it would be like
it's like resistance. An EV.
Yeah, it's like an EV. You get tires that aren't as low rolling resistance or whatever. Suddenly your range isn't going to be as good. But I kind of wish I had tires that were just a little knobbier for like people who live in not urban environments. But it was so cool. And the pricing on this, all right, I didn't know how much e-bikes cost. They can be kind of expensive. So this one, the base price on because there's like 3 different trims. The lowest trim is like $3,500. The most expensive one is $7,000.
Yeah.
That's not cheap.
No,
it's
well,
not.
There are cheaper. There are a lot more cheaper.
Yeah, like the
GoCycle though. That I reviewed a bunch of folding e-bikes.
Yeah,
and the GoCycle is the best one.
See, that's
just
the
because
thing.
it's light, it actually folds, and you can use it like all the other, like, well, not all, but
Yeah.
90% of the other foldable e-bikes are for home storage. So you have the
Yeah.
70-pound bike and you don't have somewhere to put it. So when you get home, you
Right.
fold it up and it takes up less space. And
Right.
whereas the GoCycle is definitely like something you can take, on your daily commute if you're taking the train or you have a bus or whatever.
Well, that's the thing.
It's
It was
very
super
light.
quick, like to click the buttons to like to make it like morph, do its Transformers thing and get small. It wasn't like you needed to really do it. And you don't need any mechanical equipment to do it. You don't need like screws or wrenches or whatever. Just like click, 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 push, push. There's even like a little rubber strap that you clip onto like from one part to the other to make sure that it stays nice and tight. And you can sort of tip it back onto the wheels once you have it folded down into a little square compact shape. So if you wanted to, like, you say you were someplace and you wanted to be able to roll it along with you, like you don't have to literally haul it and, you know, have it in your arms as you're walking onto a subway or something. You could tip it up, roll it on, and put it back on the ground. Like I feel like it's nicely designed to be able to be portable, and it does get pretty small. I think some get smaller. Robbie, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think this is like
They're typically smaller ones. It'll get smaller, but the sort of the big full size ones are still pretty big and they're still really heavy. And some of the smaller ones, I don't feel nearly as, because I'm a big guy. So I was riding these really small e-bikes around, and like one of them, I was like, I don't feel comfortable riding this in my neighborhood, just because I have big hills and there are bumps, and I live in California. There's hills and bumps and just stuff everywhere. And so so like I was like, I don't feel great like riding this thing, and I still have to do my like my 30-mile or 25-mile like circuit with it. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die.
All for the sake of a review.
The GoCycle is because it has the larger wheels. You have more stability. The larger the wheels you are when you're riding a bike. And so these it's a great bike if you A, have the money, and B, need something for commuting.
And I thought, like, I was thinking here, I was thought, okay, so I'm not commuting with it, but we go on those trails like back and forth all the time. And it was kind of fun to be able to think like, okay, if you go and it is like, you're just tired, you just need a break. Mm-hmm. You can kick in that little motor, and it encourages you to go further than you would have, because you're not sort of stuck having to do that whole long distance on the way back. If the weather gets super hot and suddenly you're dying because it's really hot, or it just is like, I'm just tired, I'm really tired, that was more strenuous than I thought it was. You're not suddenly 4 miles away and you have to now bike 4 miles back. You have that electric motor. So going someplace like downtown, which is fun here, like I love going to downtown Nashville, all these restaurants and coffee shops and stuff, I'd be more likely to do it on my bike rather than taking my car, because I know that if I'm just like wiped out at the end of it, it's not like I really have to bike all the way back. I can take advantage of that electric motor. I thought it was really fun. It was very light. This one has, and I think this is not every trim, I believe. So it's the highest one that I have that they gave me. And it has like carbon fiber bits and pieces all over the place. And like the wheels are carbon fiber. So you're paying more, but you're also getting a lighter bike, especially if you're going to carry it, like you're commuting or something, and you're going to need to move it, not riding it.
Or if you live in an apartment and you got to haul it up the stairs to plug it in.
Yeah, like suddenly like hauling it up the stairs is a pain in the butt. The carbon fiber makes it a little lighter. So you got to judge that, like, is it worth the extra money if you have it for the convenience of having this be a little bit lighter? I feel like it would be if you could afford it. But it's all going to be a matter of whether you can afford it or not. But like for me, I looked at it, gosh, I really truly would be more inclined to go downtown and not drive my car and not deal with parking and not make traffic congested and just enjoy some biking and enjoy the park if I knew that if I was tired on the way back, I have that electric motor as a boost. I didn't think I would be that excited about it, but I loved this stupid thing.
So does it have a throttle so you can just ride without pedaling at all?
You can ride, you can hold it down and you can ride without pedaling. And I think she told me, depends, a million different things, but it's like 35 miles of range, roughly the one that I should have. You could go for 35 miles on that little electric motor. There's no way in my life that I'm doing 35 miles of anything in one shot if it is not a car or a truck. So for me, I'm like, good, I'm golden. But I don't know how many people will be going more than 35 miles in a single. I mean, you'd
be surprised.
Yeah, I would not be. This would not be Nicole's ideal.
On a nice day, like they're working on finishing this Bay Area trail, and you can just go for miles and miles and miles. And so you're riding like testing all these e-bikes. I'm just riding forever, and I'm pedaling, but when it's like really hilly, I'm like, eh.
Right?
Yeah.
Just let this hat do the thing.
Well, see, if you're doing 35 miles and this can kick in on the hard parts, then. But like if I was just doing 35 miles, it's very hilly here. Like you don't go for more than 5 feet without a hill. Like it's constant hills. So to do 35 miles with the hills that I have in this area, that is a workout, man.
Yeah, I found the same thing here. Yeah, I've been riding the Juice Bikes Rip Current, and it's a fat tire bike, and it's not folding, and it weighs twice as much as this thing. Yeah, I'm looking at the specs of the GoCycle. It says 37.7 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
The Rip Current is 75 pounds.
See, that's huge.
And it's a big bike.
Imagine you're hauling that like you said, you have a 3-bedroom, 3rd floor apartment in a city, and you got to haul your 70-pound bike upstairs.
You're not going to do that.
You're not doing that. Or you've got a little 30-something pound bike you got to haul upstairs. 30-something pound bike I could manage.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. And I saw something that I thought was really neat, and it's as bad a tease as they do for automakers when all they show you is like a headlight. They have something called the GoCycle Family Cargo.
Oh, yeah.
Next year.
2024.
I was trying to figure out exactly what it was. I'm like, what is that? I clicked on a million links and I'm like, here's just one little piece of the frame. Here's another. It's like they're teasing. It's the worst tease. I want to know what it is and I can't figure out what it is. This is great for parents and grandparents. I'm a parent, but I don't have little kids, but I still want to know what it is. I'm curious to see this.
If you are really like it, e-bikes, and you're like want to save some money, like Rad Power, they have some really good bikes, and they have the fat tire ones. Venton. If you're hardcore, Trek has an e-bike that's great. It does not have an accelerator on it. It doesn't have
throttle.
It's only it doesn't have a throttle on it. It just has pedal assist, but it just feels, because it's Trek. They've been making bikes for 7 billion years. Yeah, so it just feels like just a little bit better than all these other bikes. But
did you like it better than the GoCycle? Because you've driven a bunch.
For what it was, yeah. I mean, for me especially, I think the GoCycle is it's an outstanding, again, it's like the design and the power that they're putting in this little itty bitty bike where I don't feel like I'm too big for this bike is great. Mm-hmm. And I had people actually come up to me like while I was taking photos and be like, "Oh, what's that?" Because it just has this fun little design, this very like
it's a cute design, and there's a couple of fun colors. The one they gave me is bright red, so it totally stands out. And Russ took it for a spin too, and he's your height, Robbie. He's like 6'3", and he rides bikes a lot. And he's like, "This is really fun. Yeah. I enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. It felt very stable." He said, "I didn't feel like it was going to be." Like you said, it didn't feel like this is too small. This is too weedy. I'm gonna die on this little bike. It felt fine. And it's funny. Because he's a nerd. When he kicks in the little electric motor, because there's leaves everywhere, every now and then it hit the little leaves. You get a little wheel spin. He's like, "I'm like burning dust." I'm like, "You're kicking up leaves, but okay, sure you are, honey." So that was my second thing. So I had the Ford Maverick for a tiny, small truck that was super fun, and the GoCycle that now has me thinking that electric bikes are kind of cool. And the next time I see one in the city, I might be inclined to, when you have the rental things, I might do it now that I feel like a little more comfortable in one. They're super easy. I don't know why I thought they were harder to manage, but they're super easy. Yeah,
they're great. You can get the cargo, like the GoCycle, but there's like cargo bikes that are out there. So you can I'm gonna go shopping.
Yeah,
just put a bucket on the back of your cargo bike and
I looked at this too. They have lights you can get, like front lights, like a little headlight and little tail lights. You can get fenders if you want to put fenders. So like if it rains, you don't have like water spraying up on you if the ground is wet. There's different kinds of like cargo things you can put. One that kind of is like that hard rack that goes over like the back wheel. Another one's more like a soft bag that kind of hangs over it like saddlebags. There's a lot of different like things that you can get. You can make, this could be very versatile. So I can see suddenly now I'm like, okay, e-bikes, I get you.
Or you could just get, the Honda Moto Compacto.
Or you get the Honda Moto Compacto. Are those on sale? It goes on sale in a couple of days. I'm like,
those go on sale Wednesday.
How much is the Honda Moto Compacto? I can't say it.
$995.
Compacto. Are you going to get a Honda?
We'll talk more about that next week, because I've had a chance to ride it, but I can't talk about that yet.
Oh, you can't talk about it? I have to kill you. Okay, don't say anything, Sam. No. I don't want anything to happen to you.
We'll discuss that one next week. All right, Robbie, what about you?
I'm looking at the wrong day. I had the official car of people who buy e-bikes and have dogs. I had the Subaru Crosstrek, 2024 Subaru Crosstrek, and driving the Subaru around. A few things. When the first time I drove the Subaru, I was like, well, why wouldn't you just get the Outback? It was a little bit bigger, a little big. But now I'm like, you know what? This is fine. This is there's so much room. There's a lot of room. It's not as tall as some other SUVs. It's capable. It's high enough. It has enough ground clearance. We can just drive over curbs and stuff. You can drive off curbs and not worry about it.
Robbie, were you going crazy with your Crosstrek?
All-wheel drive. Literally it's very utilitarian. There's nothing fancy about a Subaru. Any Subaru.
Yeah.
Any modern Subaru, none of them are fancy. You get in, you do the thing you're gonna do, and then you get out. Either it's the Impreza, the Crosstrek, the Forester, or it's the BRZ or the WRX. You get in and you do the thing that you want to do in that car, and then you get out. There's not a lot of explosions. There's no crazy,
no fancy ambient lighting and startup screens that are like welcome. Yeah.
It isn't powered by Unity. It isn't.
Was it Unreal Engine stuff?
No Unreal Engine. Yeah, you can't play a video game on it. None of that. You just get in the car and you drive the car and you go to the place you want to go, and your dog's in the back and it's having the best time ever, apparently, according to Subaru.
So can I make a comment about the dog in the back? Have you seen, and Subaru sells this for the Crosstrek, the interior thing? It covers every conceivable surface in your car, and it comes from Subaru for your dog. So it's not just a cargo cover that covers your seats. It even has a little panel that covers the door. So if your dog is prone to putting his claws and hands on the door.
Even if they don't put their hands on the door, they drool on the door while they're looking out the window.
So this is imagine a little plastic piece, and it kind of slips in the door and it comes down. It has a little paw print on it. It's really cute. But it covers the whole door. So it protects your door from dog scratches and slobber. And I don't know if it's all I think it's, and there's a cargo area, the front seats, the second row, the doors. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. It's really cool. And it's from Subaru. So it's it's not going to come standard, but it's Subaru made it so it fits the way it's supposed to fit. It's going to fit.
Yeah. When I had my WRX, it came, the person who I bought it used, the person who had before me had just bought the rubber seat, cargos.
Yeah.
The cargo spot, the cargo thing,
the cargo
and the floor mats,
the plastic one,
all of that. They just bought the rubber one. So because I used to take it to go snowboarding, it was awesome.
So that was perfect.
So it totally makes sense that it would do that for your
pets,
because they get their stuff everywhere.
They do.
So what version was I driving? I guess it doesn't really. I mean, really, it doesn't matter.
Was it the new Wilderness?
No, it wasn't even the Wilderness. It was just the regular old Subaru Crosstrek.
Just a Crosstrek.
Just no one should be nothing that exciting about it. It was the limited. Whatever.
Ooh, that makes it sound exciting.
It's a little bit nicer, I suppose. But you can get a super the Crosstrek starts at $25,000 for the base, which in the now time
for an all-wheel drive vehicle,
that's not bad.
That's actually pretty reasonable,
drive,
right?
All-wheel drive vehicle that you can it's snowing. Who cares? It's raining. I mean, you got to go through some mud. Yeah, it's fine. There's a whole
and it's got a little bit of clearance. It has just enough clearance, so that snowbank at the bottom of the driveway that the plow created that you haven't had a chance to get out of the way, poof, right through
slam through it. 8.7 inches of ground clearance, which I think that's almost it's
about the same as a Bronco Sport.
Yeah, there's a lot more ground clearance than you think on this vehicle.
Yeah. When I would come that's actually about the same as a lot of actual so-called SUVs.
SUVs, yeah. I think it's a little bit less than the G-Wagon. I looked it up once. There was some weird little factoid that I used to have about the ground clearance of Subarus and the G-Wagon. It wasn't there wasn't a huge difference.
That's horrible.
Yeah. So no, and the one I had, the limited, I guess starts at 30,000. Sure. But the only thing that's wrong with this car is the CVT. That's I mean, then that's any car with a CVT. That's what's wrong with it.
That's what's wrong with it, yeah.
It's not fast. It's not a performance vehicle. If you want that, Subaru has that. They will sell that to you. You can get that if you want. It just fits all the people. We have, 4 full-grown adult people in there. People sat in the back seat. No one's like, oh man, this is tight, because dudes will tell you when they're getting in the car, they're like, oh, like they're ever going to sit back there again. No, the infotainment system is.
Is it the dual screen or the single screen?
The single screen. It's just basic. It's essentially like an iPad.
Is it still I want to say it's a Crosstrek, but I could be pointing out the wrong Subaru. Most of them have the iPad screen, but some of them, the base trim is still the dual.
Oh, they have the little screen in the dash?
I don't like the dual screen, but they're moving towards the big one. I'm hoping like one more.
I think all the new stuff has the single screen.
Even on the base trim, because some of them had a single on all but the base. Maybe it wasn't the Crosstrek. I might be thinking of a different Subaru. But I like the big screen. I think the dual screen was wonkety and it made it look cheap, because people don't do that unless the screens are big.
Oh, yeah. I think the base still has a dual screen.
Yeah, see, I think the base, if you get the base, you get the dual screen. That's that's like the major drawback of the base trim.
Which is weird. You're just like, okay.
It's like, fine. I'll have the dual screen, whatever.
The climate controls up and down buttons for the heat, which is, typically what you want to do anyway. Volume, little knob. You can turn it.
Yay for a volume knob. Sorry, just giving him a little cheer. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, there was a few things that are in the infotainment system that you're just like, why is this in here, not a button? But that's every car nowadays. That said, I think I'm driving this car around and I realize, I'm like, if Subaru didn't change anything about the interior or the exterior, anything else, all they did was make it an EV, the Crosstrek would be selling like bonkers. That's all.
Oh my God! Can you imagine if they made an EV version of this?
It doesn't need to be crazy. It doesn't need to be from the future. It doesn't.
It can look exactly like this one.
It can be exactly like this. Exactly like this, and just make it an EV. It's going to be more expensive, obviously. It's going to be it's going to be heavier. But what are you doing? I'm just going to go driving my Subaru. Just don't care. Me and my dog. We're going to go off road. We're going to drive down trail. We're going to go camping. We're going to do all the things that people who buy like giant
Subarus
Raptors and Wranglers say they're going to do. You Subaru people are like, oh, whatever.
And the difference is that Subaru people are actually more likely to actually go off road with their vehicle than most truck owners.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, you see them all over the place.
I feel like Subaru people really do. Like, Subaru people, the people you're like, yeah, sure, you're going to have your, quote, rugged lifestyle. And you're like, oh, hey, look, that Subaru out there on the trail covered with mud. All right. Like, I guess they're actually doing it. Go Subaru person. Yeah, it is like people really do Subaru-y things with it. I think it's cool that they actually do active stuff. There was some figure, and I wish I could remember, like, they had at one of the programs I went to for Subaru, it was like, how many of their owners, go biking, how many go kayaking, and it was a crazy amount of people. I'm like, everybody does stuff. Everybody who buys a Subaru does stuff. Do they check before you buy? I'm sorry, you're not going to have an active lifestyle. Please go next door to Mazda. Like, they don't let you buy one. Like, what do they do? It's kind of cool. So
yeah, the whole. I mean, when I remember at the LA Auto Show when the BZ4X and the Solterra were both shown off. Like, the BZ4X was in a corner being spun around on a little platter and like nothing. Subaru, you went to theirs, like it was up on, like, they have their Ewok village that they build.
It is full of puppies. Village. Yes.
They build an Ewok village. The Solterra was up on the big stage and spinning around, and then next to it, on the ground, was another Solterra that had been outfitted with all the things. All the things you're going to do. And people were just crawling all over that thing. And they were just like, oh, I can put my bike on here. I can put my...
Right? Like, it really is that it's not the poser car. You buy the Subaru, you mean it.
Yeah.
You're going to do it.
But you're not making a big deal. You're like, whatever, man.
You're right. Like, I don't need to be fancy. I don't need your leather seats. I don't need whatever.
I'm going to listen to Fish. I'm going to drive around with my dog.
Going to listen to Fish. I'm going to go out with my dog. Going to put a little protective cover on there, and we're going to go for a hike and bring back Muddy Paws. It's perfect.
That doesn't matter.
I'm looking through the Subaru website, in the accessories section for the Crosstrek, and they've got a whole range of stuff. Yeah, so that you can get a collapsible pet kennel that goes in the cargo area. They sell a pet harness, which you should always use when you take your dog in the car. Just as you should also always wear your seatbelts. Your dog should also be belted in, so if something happens, they're not going flying around in the car.
Flying across the car.
They've got that rear door protector, a pet-friendly padded cargo liner, so you can put them in the cargo area, and they've got a nice padded thing that protects all the stuff. Padded seat protectors, seat cover with armrests, the whole thing. It's amazing. And
it's totally pet friendly. My favorite part is the rear door protector, though, because it has little paw prints.
Yeah.
If you click on it, little paw prints on there, so it's for your dog. It's not just because your kids are sloppy, although that'd be brilliant. It's for your dog because paw prints.
And the Subaru stand is always the best place to go at an auto show because they have the pet corral. They work with local shelters, and they bring in puppies that you can adopt right there.
Yes.
So if you just need to decompress a little bit while you're at an auto show, and this is always great at media days.
We all do it. It's like, you want to go by the Subaru booth? I need to hug a puppy.
Go spend 15 minutes in the puppy corral, and it's great.
It always cracks me up because we all do go, and people don't dress as much as they did for auto shows once upon a time. But at some point, you see somebody some guy in a suit sitting down there on the floor. I'm like, you're wearing a dark gray suit and you're picking up a white dog. Do you realize what you look like now? There's like,
doesn't matter.
You can just see like, oh, you were at the Subaru booth, weren't you? And they're covered with dog hair, and no one cares. It's like, that's great. That was my moment of zen, sitting in the Subaru booth with little puppies.
Yep,
it's their puppy hair badge of honor.
It is. It's like you're kind of excited. Like you see it, you're like, oh, I haven't been over there yet. He already is covered with dog hair. I should go over there.
Yeah. Anyway, Subaru.
How much was it all told?
The one I had was 34.
Okay.
It was the limited, and they put a bunch of stuff on it. And again, I think everyone knows at this point that I'm very much like, you don't need all that stuff.
Yeah.
Get the one that has just what you want, using the features that you're going to use all the time versus the features that are, I'm going to use this once or twice. Like, be honest with yourself about what you're going to do with your vehicle is my whole thing, which is why I'm a big fan of the Subarus. I'm a big fan of the Maverick. I'm a big fan of, the Bolt. Like, I just need an EV to drive
Most of us can get by with the base trim or the base car in a lot of lineups, and we go higher than we need to.
Yeah.
Like you might want to get the starter car, but a higher mid-range trim or something, but we can all get by with so much less than what we actually do.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just think about what you're doing in your car. Like, that's why we end up with the Kona. I'm like, well, it's just a car that's an EV. Again, if Subaru just did that with the Crosstrek, it would sell really well.
Yeah.
Because people would be like, that's just what I want. I just want a wagon-y car. I can put my dogs in, like throw some bikes on. I can drive 250 miles. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Whatever. I guess without the noise. I don't know what Subaru sounds.
I feel like that noise would be a good one. I wanted to do that. Wee, 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 wee. So driving along the road.
I'll hit up the Subaru folks and tell them, like, hey, I got a noise for you.
You work on that for me there.
All right. Well, I had, prior to leaving for Asia, I had the 2024 Chevy Trax RS, or actually 2RS to be more precise. The first gen Trax was kind of a dumpy looking little crossover.
Like, Trax was the car that everyone forgot existed, and then you'd see one on the road. You're like, oh yeah, the Trax is still a thing.
Yeah. That was accurate, Sam. Dumpy.
kind of dumpy looking. But it was cheap, and it was effective. And the new Trax is so much nicer looking. It's amazing. My wife's best friend has a first generation Trax, and when I came home in the new Trax and I showed it to my wife, and she asked, "What is that?" And I said, "That's a Chevy Trax." "You mean the same thing that Carol has?" I said, "Yep." I said, wow.
How come Carol's looks like garbage?
Yeah. Oh, poor Carol.
Poor Carol.
Carol's great. But the new Trax looks fantastic, and it's consistent with kind of the styling direction that Chevy's been going with a bunch of their new stuff. Like, the Equinox EV, looks very similar to that and other stuff. It's bigger than the original Trax. I think it's like 6 inches longer. But it is, and it's like the what is the Buick Envista? So it's based on the same platform as the Buick Envista, and it's about the same size. And this generation, it's front wheel drive only. Only powertrain available in the new Trax is a 1.2 liter 3-cylinder turbo, which is actually surprisingly peppy. Because this thing doesn't really weigh all that much. It's not ridiculously heavy like some other vehicles. So it's got 137 horsepower, 162 pound-feet of torque, 6-speed automatic transmission. So it looks really nice on the outside. It looks really nice on the inside too, much more so than the old Trax. And again, the interior design is consistent with a lot of the newer Chevys, like the Blazer EV, the Equinox EV, the Silverado, in terms of the way the screens are set up. So you got a digital instrument cluster, and then they're off to the side of that, there is an 11-inch touchscreen, LCD touchscreen that is kind of tilted a bit towards the driver. It has the infotainment system. Interestingly, the interface on the infotainment system looks exactly like the interface on a lot of the more expensive Chevys that have an Android Automotive based system, but it's not Android Automotive based. So they skinned it so it looks consistent across all Chevys, which is fine. But this one is an older, not necessarily older. It's a different system. It's running on QNX. But it has support for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wirelessly. It's really nice. It's a really nice vehicle to drive. It's surprisingly roomy, for a compact crossover. Even the back seat is really good. I said front wheel drive only this time around. And I had the 2RS. So the top two trim levels are the 2RS and the Active, both of which are priced base price of $24,995, which includes the delivery charge. And there was only a couple of options on the one that I was driving. One is the sunroof package, and the other was the driver confidence package, which gets you the rear cross traffic alert, blind spot monitoring, and adaptive cruise control. So in a vehicle that all in cost $25,445, including delivery, that's pretty well equipped. It's got a nice infotainment system. It feels it looks fairly upscale. It's mostly hard plastics, but again, like the Maverick, they've done some nice job on the texturing and everything, and the color combinations. There was, I don't think, any piano black in this thing.
Sam, what you're saying about the interior, I thought there was such a drastic difference in how much nicer this looked. Like, this is not a $50,000 car. It's not some fancy pants car. But the old one was just absolutely lackluster. It was It was like, oh God, do I have to drive this? And I remember going to the drive program for this and thinking okay, we're gonna see. Okay. And then I opened the door and I went, oh my gosh, this is actually nice. Like, kudos to them that there's still not expensive materials used in it. Between the colors and the textures that they picked, it really looks good. It looks surprisingly good. I think I would never have suggested anybody buy a Trax before. I'd be like, no, don't buy that. Now I'm like, okay, so it's not the most powerful engine in the world if you're looking to win races, no, but it's fine for what it does and for the price. And because the interior is nicer and more comfortable, this is a great little entry level kind of car. I like it now. I was surprised. I was so shocked because I really didn't like the first one.
And when with the RS, you get a bunch of red accents because RS sporty, red sporty.
Right.
So
exactly.
you got the circular vents like you have on the Blazers and some of the other models with the red accents in there. Red accents across a red stripe across the passenger side of the dashboard. Red accents on the shifter. It's really good. This is a really great, relatively entry level vehicle. It's not the cheapest vehicle. I mean, you can go for the the base LS model that starts at 21.5, and that is one of the most affordable vehicles you can get today. But even with the RS, you're still in the mid 25s, which is not at all bad for a modern vehicle like this. And you've got things like dual zone climate control and everything else. So if what you, and it's a crossover, but it's a car. It's a slightly tall 5-door hatchback, which is that's what most people need. It's very practical, and as a hatchback, you can fold the back seats down. You got a nice big opening in the back so you can load stuff in there, including mulch. You can take your mulch in there. Yeah. So there's lots of good features in here. And like I said, in this RS, it even had adaptive cruise control and blind spot monitoring and lane keeping assist. So it's got everything you need. And so I would definitely recommend people take a look at this one if they're looking for, an entry level hatchback. The only downside is, like I said, it's front wheel drive only. They're not offering all wheel drive this generation. So unlike the Crosstrek, which is all wheel drive only, this is front drive only. So if you want all-wheel drive, you're going to have to step up to the Trailblazer. Like if you want all-wheel drive in a Chevy crossover, a small Chevy crossover, you got to go to the Trailblazer. That one offers all-wheel drive. But this one, if you can, depending on where you live, if you can get by with, if you don't need all-wheel drive for winter driving, then this is a great choice to consider. So that is the Chevy Trax for 2024.
Cool.
Yes. All right. Let's move on to some of the stuff. So I was in Japan last week. Went to the Japan Mobility Show with Nissan. They paid my way there. And at the show, we saw lots of stuff. This is one of the most interesting auto shows I've been to in many, many years. This is the show formerly known as the Tokyo Motor Show. And I think pretty much everybody I talked to that was there agrees that the absolute highlight of the show was the Mazda Iconic SP concept. Did you two get a look at this thing?
I'm looking at it right this second. It does look cool. That was the best. That was what everybody uniformly there thought was like the thing. Oh
yeah, absolutely. This thing is fantastic looking. So this is not a Miata. This is actually quite a bit bigger. It's like 7 or 8 inches longer than a Miata. It has a dual rotor Wankel rotary engine and electric motor. So it's a plug-in hybrid. They don't provide any besides that, they don't provide any other real specs on this thing. And there's no indication that they're actually going to build this. But if they do, I sincerely hope that they do.
Do you think they will, or did you get? What do you think? What do you think the chances are of this actually becoming a production vehicle?
I don't know. It's hard to say.
I think every time they say rotary, whenever we talk about rotary engines, we all know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, they did.
That's what I'm thinking.
It's the thing they say because that's what they're known for.
They do have the plug-in hybrid version of the MX-30 with a rotary engine that they sell overseas. That they dropped the MX-30 in North America, but they sell it in Europe and in Japan, and that has a rotary engine for the range extender. But unfortunately, I am skeptical that this will get built. I hope they do, but I'm not holding my breath. But it has pop-up headlamps.
I love pop-up headlamps. Does anything actually have pop-up headlamps right now?
Not that I can think of.
I can't think of anything.
I mean, this is, classic Mazda design, very simplistic, very clean. Even the interior is really clean. There's no giant hyper screen or anything like that. There's a small central screen, some buttons on the console, a digital instrument cluster, and that is like it. Very minimalist. and this thing just looks so fabulous. But yeah, unfortunately, it's very unlikely that this will get to production.
Do you think we'll get something close? Do you think design wise at all?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the next generation Miata takes a lot of design inspiration from this concept. Shorten it up a little bit, make it a roadster. They actually did have a red NA roadster, red NA Miata on the show stand at Mazda. But this thing is the highlight, definitely, of the show.
I
would like to see it happen, but it won't. It won't.
Just make
the night before the show, Infiniti had an event where they showed off a concept, which actually we will be getting something based on this coming as a 2026 model. Infiniti is going to build a new sedan. It's going to be electric. We don't know yet what the final name will be. The concept was called the Vision Qe, and this is a fairly large, actually, 4-door sedan, and this gives you a pretty good idea of the design direction that Infiniti is going with their next generation vehicles. So this is an electric sedan. It feels like they didn't give any specs on this, but it looks like it's similar in size to a Tesla Model S. So It's a pretty good size sedan.
Pretty big. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Pretty wild looking front end, especially.
It's very angular. It makes me, I know it's not round at all like a BMW, but that the bottom lights make me think of the giant maw that is a BMW grill these days.
Right. And that was what I thought when I saw it, because that actually lights up.
Yeah.
So when it's off, that's dark. And it's sort of a stylized version of the Infiniti logo, which is because if you look at it, in the middle, you've got the two lines going up.
Literally, converging. I just tipped my head to the side like a dog. Like, I don't know if I see that. Okay, I see it now that you said that. Yes.
Yeah. And this, a lot of what you see here is going to be appearing on next generation Infinitis coming in just a few years. Hopefully this is close to what we actually get. The production version, the production sedan, as I said, will be coming as a 2026 model. It'll be built in Canton, Mississippi. No other detailed specs on this thing, but it's coming. They also confirmed that a new QX80 is coming, I think, next year. They didn't really give a specific date, but at Pebble Beach this summer, they showed the QX monograph concept, and they had that on they had that there at this event, but they did not actually show either the QX monograph or the QE at the show, because Infiniti, despite being part of Nissan, does not sell cars in Japan. You cannot buy Infinitis in Japan, so they didn't actually show it. They didn't have it at the show. They just had their standalone event the night before. But the QX monograph, it's taking the full size SUV idea, that they've had with the QX80 for a while, but kind of doing what Range Rover has been doing with their models over the last 15 years or so, making it progressively smoother and smoother. So you get flush door handles and everything flush, and just kind of smoothing it out. And that should be coming next year, as well as a QX65, which they say is inspired by the Infiniti FX, but they also said that about the QX55, and that wasn't so much. So we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Hopefully. So that was Infiniti in Japan. I also had a chance to drive a couple of cars while I was there.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I only care about one car.
Only one?
Only one.
So you want the Nissan Serena, right?
No.
The minivan with the e-power system? No. The two most interesting ones were the Nissan Sakura and the X-Trail e-Power. So the Sakura is the best-selling EV in Japan. It accounts for over half of electric vehicle sales in Japan, which is not that much, to be fair, but it's the best-selling EV in Japan.
It's so cute.
It's a K car.
It's adorable.
Yeah. So K cars are it's this class of cars in Japan that are the regulations that govern K cars there's a maximum size that they can be, and no more than, I think it's 66 horsepower. And there's a maximum speed of like 110 kilometers per hour, which is about 65, 67 miles per hour. The Sakura, what's amazing about these K cars is that they are so tiny on the outside. They are literally the Tardis of cars, for Doctor Who fans. They are tiny on the outside, but they are shockingly big on the inside. The packaging is unbelievable. I've got a picture, and there'll be a link to some photos in the show notes. But a friend of ours, Bank Talverson, who is he's with Green Car Reports. He is 6'6". He got in the front seat of the Sakura, and pasting a different picture here. You can see Bank's expression.
Wait a minute, I'm looking.
The last link I just put in the chat. He's 6'6". He got in the front seat, in the driver's seat, set it for his height, and then got in the back. And these are tiny little cars.
And he fits.
He's got lots of leg room, lots of knee room, lots of head room.
Gosh, I would not have expected that. He actually has more room. Wow.
Yeah. It's shocking how much room there is in this thing. And the back seat slides back and forth. So, normally, when you put it all the way back like it was there in this picture, there's not a lot of cargo space left in the back. But, as a commuter car, it's great. And then you can slide that back seat way forward and get a lot more cargo space if you need it, or fold it down entirely if you need to carry big stuff. We'll never see this in the U.S. market, but it's got it's got some styling, some design elements from the Aria, that they've put on this little box car. It's got 64 horsepower. It's got a range of 180 kilometers, which is about 115 miles on the WLTP cycle. So real world, it's about 80 miles of range, 75 to 80 miles of range. So it's similar in that respect to the first generation Leaf. But if you live in a city, if you live someplace like Tokyo, which is very crowded, very hard to find places to park, having a car this size is actually ideal. It's perfect for crowded cities. Like I said, it'll unfortunately almost never be sold outside of Japan.
We'll never see it.
At least not for another 25 years, at which point, you can import them. People import old K cars all the time. But this is an unbelievable little car. And, it has ProPilot Assist on it. It's got all the features in here. It's really fun to drive, because it's so small, even with 64 horsepower, it feels very nimble, very responsive. And it was a hoot to drive.
I wish I get to drive that. I think I'm so glad that you took a picture of him in there, though, because it didn't look. I would have thought there's no way. There's no way anyone was going to fit in there without being contorted like a pretzel.
Yeah, I mean, he got in after I was finished driving the car, and he got in, set the front seat, and I said, "Okay, now get in the back. Let me see how much space you have in the back."
Yeah.
The day before at the show, we were checking it out on the show floor, and Ed Kim from Auto Pacific got in the back, and he was sprawled out in this thing. It was crazy, how much room he had. And so I had Bank sit in there, and he was amazed at just how much room there was. So that's the Nissan Sakura. The other interesting thing I drove was the Nissan X-Trail e-Power. So the X-Trail is the same vehicle that we have here that's called the Nissan Rogue. So everywhere else in the world, the Rogue is called the X-Trail.
E-Power sounds way cooler than Rogue. X-Trail.
It does, yeah. And e-Power is Nissan's series hybrid system. So it's different from the configuration you get on a Toyota or most other vehicles. There's no direct drive between the engine. It has a 1.5 liter 3-cylinder engine. There's no direct drive between the engine and the wheels. The engine drives a generator, which provides electricity to the drive motor as well as a smaller battery. So it's technically an electric vehicle without a plug.
Okay.
So there's no plug on it. And the concept is really cool. Driving it, it felt very natural to drive it. It was quite responsive. It's got about 200 horsepower, which is similar to the performance of the X-Trail that we have, or the Rogue that we have here now, which is a 1.5 liter 3-cylinder turbo. So similar performance, but the engine is not driving the wheels at all. When I drove it, I thought, wow, this is really cool. We should have this in North America. And then I went and looked up the fuel economy ratings for it.
And you did math.
Yeah, I did some math, and it's like, okay, now I see why they don't bother to sell it here in North America. Because in Europe, the front wheel drive X-Trail e-Power is rated, like in the UK, it's rated at 48 miles per gallon, but that's imperial gallons. When you convert that to US gallons, which are smaller, and then cut off about 20% for the difference between the WLTP test cycle and the EPA test cycle, it's rated about 33 miles per gallon. Guess what the rating is for the 1.5 liter turbo in the US Rogue? On 33 miles per gallon combined.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Womp, womp.
So you don't actually get any benefit in terms of efficiency, at least not with the current generation. There's been some rumors that the next generation e-Power system, which we saw, which should be more efficient and also lower cost, may be coming to the Rogue in North America. Oh. So we may see that in like 3 years or so, 3 or 4 years. But right now, Nissan has not confirmed that. They've never officially announced anything, but we might get that version when the next generation Rogue arrives.
Maybe.
Something we almost certainly won't get is the Nissan Hyper Force concept.
Hyper Force.
It also sounds cool. The names are better. Hyper Force. Yeah. Oh, Lord. This looks like the Batmobile in that main picture. It is,
yeah.
It's the Batmobile car. Like the Nissan Batmobile.
No. The original 1960s Batmobile, they used the Lincoln Futura concept. And George Barris converted that made the Batmobile out of it.
Okay, they could use this one for the Batmobile in the next iteration
for this
the remakes.
One, they made a Batmobile out of a Nissan GTR.
Yeah.
So you can, in the shape of the greenhouse and everything, you can see a lot of current GTR in there.
Yeah.
This thing is supposedly, I'm pretty sure it's not a running vehicle because we never saw it actually move. But
it just sat there looking pretty.
This is like, well, I'm not sure I'd use the word pretty.
You just sat there looking angry.
Yeah. And when you look at the profile image of it, it's got a really long overhang on the front.
It's huge.
And it's really low. And you would not want to take this over speed bumps or even up your driveway.
How are you going to catch the Joker if you can't go over speed bumps?
You're right. You have to be but there could be like the batarangs or something, or bat grappling hooks, or
you need something
in there.
Yeah. But they, so this is, inspired by GTR, but it's electric. It's supposed to, the specs say something like 1,300 horsepower, all-wheel drive electric. There's no indication that we're ever actually going to see anything like this. They have, they've not confirmed anything. Some of the other hyper concepts that they showed, like the Hyper Punk, which I think we talked about a few weeks ago. Nissan released images of some of the concepts over the last few weeks. Some of those design ideas will be showing up in future production EVs. Whether anything like the Hyper Force shows up, I don't know. We'll see.
I bet it won't. It would be cool, but
yeah,
probably not.
So let's see. That's the Hyper Force. What else you got? Oh, the Honda Prelude.
Prelude's coming back. No bad Preludes.
Does it have pop-up headlights? Does it have pop-up headlights?
It does not have pop-up headlights.
Forget it. I'm out. I want the pop-up headlights. Dang it. Those are the best.
What do you think of this Prelude?
What do I think of this Prelude?
I dig it. I know it's not an EV.
The original Prelude, the first couple of generations, or at least the first generation of Prelude, didn't have pop-ups either. It had fixed headlights.
Well, that was a mistake. When they got the pop-up headlights, they corrected their errors. So I don't know. I think it looks kind of good. It's very swoopy in the back. It's got a very fast back.
Yeah.
Very, very sloped route. Is there even a back seat in this? Do they even pretend?
Well, we don't know because we could not see an interior. The windows were basically
completely blacked out. So you couldn't see.
We don't know if this is anything more than just a styling study at this point. They in the announcement, they didn't really say anything about. All they said was electrified. We got a booth tour from somebody at Honda that showed us all the stuff that Honda had, including the Prelude, and he said that it was a hybrid, not battery electric, and there was no indication of a charge port door on this thing. So this is more likely something built on the Civic hybrid platform. So we don't have a coupe version of the current generation Civic. So this is maybe, bringing back a coupe to the Civic architecture, and reviving an old name. But it looks really good. I like the way it looks. We'll see if it ever gets built.
Yeah, we'll see.
Unfortunately, coupe. The reason why they dropped the Civic coupe is because it didn't sell very many copies.
Nobody bought it. I get it. Yeah. If no one's buying it, then if you can't sell it, you're not going to build it. Yeah. I get it. I don't have to like it, but I get it.
Yeah. So you've both driven the Lexus RZ, right?
Mm-hmm. I have.
Maybe.
What? Sure. Of all the things about the RZ.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I haven't driven a Lexus RZ.
What's the most disappointing part of the RZ?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that it doesn't look like this picture. Good gravy. I'm thinking you're going for the off-road capability. Is that what we're going for here?
Well, the RZ doesn't have particularly good range.
No.
Like the RZ, the high-end RZ with the 20-inch wheels is only rated at 194 miles of range.
Right.
So you put big tires and you put on a bunch of appendages, that affect your aerodynamics. And what do you suppose that's going to do to the range of an RZ?
Make it so much better.
And you jack it up, you lift it up, so you have more ground clearance.
Way better, right? Better.
Yeah, it should be at least 300 miles now, right?
Yeah. We're totes.
3 billion miles.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know. They're not saying anything. They just had this, and there's no announcement of this thing. It was just sitting out there on the show floor, an RZ, Lexus RZ off-roader.
Just chilling, just hanging out in the corner, like I'm here if you need me.
Yeah,
we should make a Subaru.
Big knobby tires. Yeah, this would be more appropriate as a Subaru Solterra.
You're not
wrong. A Solterra Outback or something, or a Crosstrek version of the Solterra. As a Lexus, it's like, why bother?
It's not. That looks really fancy and fun and funky, but literally nobody who owns a Lexus is looking for that.
No,
literally no one. No one asked for that. Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 people, but
there'd be somebody who would want it.
A couple.
But while I was looking at this, I ran into Roman Micah and his son Tommy. Yes. They were there. They were shooting a bunch of stuff, and we were chatting about it. And nobody was particularly impressed with the. I remember one of the first Grumpy Roman rants that
Grumpy he did. Roman rants, that should be a segment.
Was actually it's been a recurring thing ever since since they tested the RZ. The first one that he did was on the RZ.
The Roman rants, I love it.
So yeah, make sure you go check out Roman and the crew at TFL. and I'll find the link to his rant about the RZ. But doing an off-road version of it just seems kind of pointless.
Yeah.
On the other hand,
yes,
Lexus will have at least another one more EV coming in 2026, which is the going to be based off the LFZC concept, because that just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it?
LFZC.
I love ZC.
Lexus lives.
So this is kind of similar in size to the IS and might end up being a replacement for the IS. Who knows? What do you think of this one?
Let me give it a better look. Ooh, that's very, very, very lit. Those are some. Okay, why does it look like? Okay, don't like it. So what's happening on the door panel? So when you look at the side door on the profile, it looks like the Hulk punched the door panel and it's popped in behind the front fender.
Yes.
Like you could put your whole hand behind the front fender by accident because somebody went kablamo.
That is a pretty good description of it. Yeah.
I feel like that's accurate. You guys all know exactly what I mean looking at that picture.
Yeah.
Inside it looks kind of funky.
Yeah, it's a paper craft car. Like, when you have to
origami.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it has that the steering wheel. I've lost the word.
The yoke.
The yoke. Thank you. It has the yoke steering wheel. I don't know how I feel about those.
Well, unlike Tesla, when Lexus introduced the yoke for the RZ, they did a proper steer-by-wire system. So I think it's like only like 120 degrees of rotation in each direction.
Yeah.
So you're never gonna have to go hand over hand with the yoke. You can basically turn the whole thing from one end to the other without taking your hands off the sides of the yoke.
Which takes a little getting used to because you've turned right and you feel like you're only a little turned right, and it's like, no, you are turned right. Like ease up. Like it takes a little, but you do get used to it. But
have you had a chance to try the RZ with that system?
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
The wheel as it is worked fine. Like I feel like just a regular wheel is sort of more intuitive and makes more sense to me.
Why are we trying to get rid of a steering wheel? There's nothing wrong with the steering wheel. Like
you said, it does have that limited range. So it's not like you're going hand over hand, but you have such a small change in moving the yoke, moving the not real wheel, moving that other sort of rectangular shaped oddness makes very dramatic changes. So I don't know. It worked well. It was easier to use than I thought, but I prefer an actual wheel.
Okay.
That's my thought.
Why? Everyone who's building cars, they watch Knight Rider and they're like, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, as soon as I'm in power, as soon as I'm in control, we're getting yokes.
Woohoo!
So they showed this thing, and something like this is coming as a production model around the same time as the Infiniti Qe, 2026. So it's going to be interesting to have these luxury electric sedans from Japanese brands coming in just a few years' time, trying to take on Tesla. And one of the interesting things about this one is they're saying, they're using a whole different manufacturing process for this. So they're going to follow the same route as Tesla with their big castings for the front and rear structures that really simplify manufacturing. But it does cause some problems with repairability or absence of repairability, because steel stampings, if you get into a crash, steel stampings will bend to absorb some of that energy, and you can straighten them back out again and fix the car and get it back on the road. With these castings, it dramatically reduces the number of parts and simplifies assembly, but those things they fracture, and essentially you get into a crash with one of those and you basically scrap the car.
Yeah, the car's done, which isn't
no
great.
more car.
Yeah. And Hertz just had their Q3 earnings call a few days ago, and their profits were way down, in part because they said Hertz has been rolling out a lot of Teslas and Polestars into their fleet over the last 2 years. And I think they've got something like 35,000 Model 3s in their fleet now. They were planning on buying 100,000 Model 3s. One of the reasons they said why their numbers were bad is the repair costs were much higher for the Teslas. Service and maintenance costs were higher, and also they also had much worse depreciation than they had anticipated because Tesla's been slashing the prices on the Model 3 because nobody's buying them. So they have much lower residual value than they anticipated. So, hopefully that won't be happening with all of these EVs. If car companies keep going down the same kind of assembly path, same kind of manufacturing path that Tesla's doing, hopefully they'll figure out ways to actually make these things repairable.
That's going to be a big deal. If they're too expensive, there's got to be a balance there.
If you're like, well, you don't have to maintain, it's cheaper, and driving is cheaper. Oh, someone hit you. Never mind.
Right?
Throw it away.
No, it's not.
All the things you said they were going to make it cheaper that offset the cost of the sticker price are now gone because now your insurance is more expensive because, Allstate's going to be like, nah, man.
Yeah.
That is too much. No.
All right. Last one from the Tokyo show is the Subaru Sport Mobility concept.
Dun, dun.
What do you think of this one?
That is very blue in the front. What
yes,
is happening
it is.
There? Is that paint? Is that or is that lit up?
No, it's paint.
Oh,
it's painted. So it's this weird mix of gray and a very bright blue. I like the shade of blue.
The blue is cool, but
it really contrasts with the gray.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Okay, I think I would need less giant blue span of blue. I don't know what's happening.
Just get rid of the blue.
Get rid of the blue, and I could maybe buy into this.
Yeah, get rid of the blue.
Even the blue accents are really cool. It's just a very it looks like someone. You know what it looks like when you look at the paint. When something's in the middle of being painted and it's partly primed and you're like, oh, there's a swath of weird color. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, that's because it's primed. It's not really painted yet. No, that's how it's going to look. They need to change that up a little. That's a little odd. Did it look better in person, Sam?
No.
It's not
really.
Blue.
He pauses.
Get rid of the blue. Just
or just do it all in blue.
Or do the whole thing blue.
Pick one
blue
color
with that sort of black speckle. It looks like there's gray, there's blue, and there's a black speckledy kind of trim. Make the whole thing blue and then give it the accent, the black speckly bit.
Yeah. And then whatever the weird.
There's not a lot of detail on this thing. This is apparently a non-running concept. It's a coupe, which Subaru doesn't do a lot of. Supposedly this thing, is kind of inspired by the SVX. Of the early 1990s.
Yeah.
But it sits taller than that did. It's it kind of a combination of rally special, but coupe.
It's a BRZ and a WRX had a baby. And the baby was super into cyberpunk.
There you go.
Was into cyberpunk.
That's a good way of describing it.
Yeah.
But there's no details at all about the any of the mechanical bits, and no interior on this thing. It was just up on the stand there, just spinning around, looking interesting.
Looking cool.
The Autocar story says Subaru suggested the driver would have control of all four wheels at will, hinting at a quad motor EV. Would you have four joysticks? So you can adjust the
I have
torque to each wheel.
If I'm driving a Subaru, I was driving that Crosstrek, didn't I have control over all four wheels when I was hitting the accelerator?
Wasn't that already happening?
Isn't that already what I'm doing? And then
I think the implication here is that they would be independently controllable.
Oh yeah, that's just nonsense.
Yeah.
Tell us what you really think, Robbie. That's nonsense. Nonsense, people. I tell you, nonsense.
No, the nonsense was the urban air mobility concept. Giant drone thing. That if you look at the top photo, you can see it off in the
The distance
on the left-hand corner there. It was hanging up above and behind the concept. Looks it's a single-seater drone thing, quadcopter. Actually, I think it was like 6 rotor thing.
Well, that's different.
Yeah. It was and again, no explanation. Subaru's never really talked about doing anything like this before. It was just there,
just chilling.
Yeah, just hanging, literally hanging
there, quite literally.
And there was a whole bunch of other stuff at the Tokyo show as well. There was
well, Subaru makes helicopters. There we go. That's what I was trying to remember.
Do they?
Yeah, they make helicopters.
Oh, I did not know that.
They build helicopters for somebody. Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah. I mean, it's Subaru. They're like, what are they at, like the stars or whatever. But yeah, they make helicopters. I think for Bell.
Oh, okay. I didn't know they made helicopters.
It's a thing. I'm trying to talk to Subaru about this. That's why I'm like, why am I talking to Subaru if this is just some shenanigans? I'm like, oh wait, they build helicopters.
So yeah, those were some of the highlights. They all, Toyota also had their e-pickup there on display, which I think you guys talked about last week.
Yeah,
and it's a good looking little truck, Maverick sized, but it's all electric. And then there was Lexus also had this fuel cell, hydrogen fuel cell side by side with wheels on it, non-pneumatic wheels. And Mitsubishi had a concept called the DX, which was this wild overlanding van thing, which was pretty interesting. On the Mazda stand, they had there was a Miata, a current ND Miata, and the graphics along the side said self-empowerment driving vehicle.
Ooh,
as opposed to self-driving vehicle. So empowering yourself by driving this thing.
Kawasaki change it to make it so that people actually know when something is self-driving and just driver assist is self-empowerment, the latest effort. So people understand what their vehicle actually doesn't do yet.
Yeah, empowering you to drive it.
Yeah, there you go.
Kawasaki was there. They had a couple of electrified Ninja bikes. There was the Ninja E1, which is a pure electric, and then they also had the Ninja 7 Hybrid, which is, as the name implies, a hybrid bike. So there was lots of interesting stuff there. If you're interested in going to an auto show, if you happen to be in Japan or feel like going to Japan, the next time around, in 2019 or 2023, no, wait, it's 2023 now, 2025, because they do this every other year. I would definitely recommend the Japan Mobility Show, because a lot more cool stuff than you'd find at, say, the Detroit Auto Show.
Did it feel much bigger and more vibrant than that?
Oh, absolutely.
Detroit? Yeah.
Yes. Lots of people, lots of interesting stuff there. Lots of concepts, a lot more automakers there with various and sundry ideas of all sorts.
All sorts of fancy ideas.
That's just Japan. Yeah. Japan's great.
Yeah.
You get to drive a train everywhere.
Oh yeah. Well, they gave us a pass to Nissan gives passes for the train. They had shuttles going over to the convention center, to the Tokyo Big Sight. And some people took the bus over there, which took about 45 minutes. And then a bunch of us took the train, which was like 12 minutes.
Yeah, the train is the way to go for sure when you're
absolutely.
And it's funny because when I was there in October, I was Tim Stevens just happened to be over there, so we were going to go get some ramen together, and I was like, okay, I'm going to take the subway on my own. And so I walk over to the subway and I'm looking at it. It's all in Japanese, and I have Google Translate. And I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, where do I do it?
Amazing.
And I'm figuring it out. And how do I get to this station? And I'm there for like a couple minutes. And then I realize if I look to the right, everything that I'm looking at in Japanese is also available in English.
That wasn't always the case, though.
Yeah, but for like some of the main stations, you're like, oh, all right, well, there we go. And then they also do the announcements in English.
Yeah, they did do that on the trains, which was handy.
Yeah.
Getting from the airport, I flew into Narita Airport, which is kind of on the outskirts of Tokyo, and but I flew home from Haneda, which is right like in the heart of Tokyo. But Narita Airport to the hotel was 68 kilometers, which is about 42 miles. It took an hour and a half by taxi to get from Narita to the hotel, and this was on a Sunday night at like 6:30.
It's like New York. Like I don't know. Like sometimes like we'll have events in New York, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to pick you up in a car," and I'm like, "Man, can I just take the train?" Because the subway's like 40 minutes. A car is an hour and a half.
Yeah. And the one bad thing about New York, like from here, I almost always fly into LaGuardia.
Mm-hmm. And you got to take the bus.
There's no train from LaGuardia into Manhattan, which is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I flew into LaGuardia, then out of JFK, and JFK is just so much easier. Because you can just get on the train right there. Boom.
All right. So we have one email, but let me see if I can find it here because I forgot to paste it into the.
Super secret question.
What are you talking about? I can't see anything.
Why are you making this podcast a den of lies, Sam?
I know, right?
I know.
I met a man and his child. And they told me, he's been working politician stories, the ones that are made up. And I said to
oh, here we go.
William. Okay, go on.
All right. So this one from Michael Gottlieb. In episode 321, last week's show that the two of you did, Nicole and Robbie spent some time ranting. Well, maybe not spent some time ranting. Well, maybe not ranting, but talking about why do most EVs have to look so different rather than just being a car that happens to have an EV drivetrain.
Ranting is fair. Ranting. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was probably ranting.
My car, a BMW i4, I have the E35 version, is rarely mentioned on the podcast. Actually, we've mentioned it quite a few times because I
love the i4. It's the best.
We've reviewed several. We've reviewed both the E40 and the M50.
I think it's so good we forget about it.
Yeah.
It's the best 4 Series. There you go.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Anyway, Michael says it's rarely mentioned on the podcast, but absolutely meets that definition. It is simply a BMW 4 Series that happens to have an electric motor instead of an ICE. It looks substantially the same as the 4 Series, which in one respect is not necessarily a good thing because it still has the giant kidneys, but
you just ignore. You're driving, man.
Yeah, I know.
You don't have to see that.
You don't have
just
to
walk up to it from behind, and you're
back it into your driveway
from the back.
Anyway, and drives like a BMW, which it does. It absolutely does. On top of that, the pricing for it was not outrageous. So the E35 is the shorter range version of it. So it is actually fairly reasonably priced. I think it's starts around 50,000 if I recall correctly.
Yeah. My
car, while the lowest trim level, is fully equipped with options galore, yet still listed for less than 60,000. And with the BMW $7,500 lease incentive and some dealer discounts, the lease on that car was really reasonable. All in all, a great car that simply is an EV as well.
I talk whenever someone's like, "Oh, I want to get an EV, but I want something that's kind of i4." It's just that it doesn't. You want a BMW, you want an EV. i4. BMW for years we were like, what are they doing? Because they had the i3, they had the i8, and they're like, oh, we're doing this modular manufacturing, and then there was just like this big huge gap, and I was just like, what is going on? Are they ever going to do this thing that they've been talking about? They've been talking up, and then the cars come out, and then I remember going on a trip for the i4, and I got in the car, and I'm like, I'm sure it'll be fine, and it was great. And I was surprised, and it was just a 4 Series that happens to be an EV. No, you made it. You made the correct decision, sir.
Yeah,
I agree.
Absolutely,
king among men.
A king among men.
And it hits the thing where it's just like, oh, here's a car that's an EV. The end.
Yeah. All right.
Great.
We also had
sorry about the rant.
One other email that actually came in the week before, so this one was from Barry Simpson, and he says, I've been listening to your podcast for months, and it's good. Can you talk about the elephant in the room on EV cars? We have no infrastructure that can handle it. Charging stations are not as plentiful as gas stations, and I'm aware they are increasing, but not in the Midwest of the U.S. And Barry lives in Indiana. Also, the government is spending up to $7,500 a car as an incentive that costs money. Lastly, the EVs are not selling. Tesla, yes, but not normal cars. Appreciate the good work. So,
yeah, the infrastructure is a mess.
Yeah,
I think you said that we all agree the infrastructure is an absolute disaster area, and very much depending on where you are too. Like in certain areas of the country, it's better than others. It's not great in the middle of the country. It's not great here in New England. It's fabulous comparatively out in California.
By my house, it's great.
Yeah, whatever.
Got the new 350 chargers, like they're down the road.
Yeah, but it's not great. It really isn't great.
And the Electrify America experience is still miserable, no matter where you are.
Yeah, but we have the new tax deal is that if you want money from the government for your charging stuff, your stuff has to work.
Yeah.
So that's an incentivize them to make their stuff work.
One would hope.
Because there really was the only, I mean, Electrify America, it's great that we did a bunch of stations. We put them all over the place. The first ones, we didn't do so great. We were just like threw some parts together and hope for the best. But the Electrify America is because of Dieselgate. It was,
that's the only reason it exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why Electrify America is a thing. Now they have to sort of, do something about it. And I think ChargePoint, I spoke with them recently. They're going like, we're trying to get 100% uptime for our stuff, and that's the goal. And that's really the goal.
And ChargePoint's been introducing some new modular hardware, make it easier to replace things like the cables, the charging cables on their chargers. Yep. So easier to service. So if something happens, if a cable gets damaged, they can go in and quickly swap that out. And there's other companies too that are starting to make some inroads, that are specifically designing their chargers to be more reliable, more robust, lower cost, reducing the cost. DC charging infrastructure in particular is really expensive. For DC fast charging, the chargers are expensive, and the site preparation and everything. Building a DC fast charging station can cost, is basically, for a 150 kilowatt station, you're looking minimum of $80,000 to $100,000 per charger, and a maximum, several hundred thousand, depending on, where you want to put it. And if it needs a substation upgrade, then that costs money for the utilities. One of the things we're starting to see though, is more and more companies putting on-site battery storage for their chargers, for their DC chargers, so that it doesn't they can get by without substation upgrades. You can charge that battery continuously at a lower rate, so it doesn't draw as much power from the grid, so there's not as much strain on the grid, and then you can fast charge from the battery to the vehicles. So we're getting more and more infrastructure all the time. And it will take a little while, but it's getting there.
It's getting there. It's
slowly but surely. And the problem is slowly. It's just frustrating. If you're ready to jump all in, that can be a good reason not to just yet, especially if you're not living in the right spot. You
live at Robbie's house. And then home charging is home charging. If you can, it's awesome. If you can't, and if you're not in my house again, it can be difficult to talk you or anyone into doing this.
Well, the other thing we need to do is put in more AC charging, level 2 charging, so that because a lot of people live in homes where they either rent and they can't put in their own charger, or they may not have a driveway. In a lot of cities, you have people that live in single family homes, but they have to park on the street, and so we need to put in things like curbside charging, so people can charge overnight. And there's solutions for that in Europe. They've done a lot with installing chargers that they power off of light poles, utility poles, because especially as they convert street lights to LEDs, they take a lot less power, but they've got the power capacity for more powerful traditional lights, but they're using a lot less power now with the LED lights. So they have excess power available, so they can use those to power chargers.
And the city can make some money.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Which they weren't making before. And it doesn't need to be, especially if you're parking there overnight, it doesn't need to be, 80 kilowatts. It could be 11. It could be 7. It could be, it doesn't need to be a lot. And that's enough. You get up in the morning, hey, your car's charged, you're ready to go. It's sort of the same as living at a house with it. And whenever I'm walking, I'll just walk around like a European city, and you'll walk to residential areas, and there'll just be those charging stations, like in a block of like apartment buildings, and I'm like, why can't we just why can't we just do this? But so yeah, no, it's
going to get better.
Charging. It'll get better. Part of my job over at SAE again is to make sure, help making sure that these charging stations are up by having these companies hire people to fix them. That's something that you don't see,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm talking to ChargePoint. I'm talking to Charger Help, a company out of LA that just trains people on how to fix charging stations. And ChargePoint's going to be training electricians to fix and install charging stations. So everyone's working on making this system better. So hopefully, next 5 years or so, it won't be the system that we have now. It'll be like when you go to the gas station and you're just like, I just put, every once in a while, one pump is out. It has that little bag over the
and no one
handle.
cares because there's 10 other pumps.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, whatever. I'm just gonna do. You're gonna go to the mall and there's gonna be a bunch of charging stations. You just plug in, and it doesn't have to be DC fast charging. It could be a nice AC charging. But while you're doing things, you just plug in and go on your day, and you get a little incremental charging throughout the day. And at the end of the day, it's like I didn't even use my gas because I didn't have to go to a gas station.
Right.
Yeah. And, a lot of places they have programs for training technicians to diagnose and service chargers and do the installations. There's going to be lots of interesting job opportunities there. Here in Michigan, they've got a program, for training the technicians that will be doing these charger installations and doing the service and maintenance on these chargers. And you know what? Those are the kind of jobs, they're never, ever going to get replaced by an AI.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing a career board over at SAE that launches on Wednesday. It's like a soft launch. They'll make a big deal about it a few weeks later because it's a website, and websites are notoriously websitey. But yeah, there's just a ton of jobs that are going to be out there for if you're an electrician, if you want to be an electrician, and if you just want to get trained in those things. Yeah, if you're like, well, what do I want to do? Check. Yeah, go to SAE.org. I think it's careers right now. I'll have more information next week.
Sounds good. All right. I think that's it for this week. Don't forget, you can get Wheel Bearings merch now. We got T-shirts. I'm wearing one right now. I'm wearing the mulch hauling convertible T-shirt at this moment. And you can get those at shop.wheelbearings.media or just go to cottonbureau.com and look for Wheel Bearings Podcast, and you'll find several different T-shirt designs. And if you're an artist and you feel like creating a design, a fun design for Wheel Bearings, shoot it over to us. And if we like it and decide to put it up there, we'll make sure that you get a healthy discount on that, or maybe even get you a free one. And if you're a patron, you can also get a discount on your Wheel Bearings merch. If you haven't received the message from me through Patreon, just shoot us a note and I will make sure that you get that discount code. So that's it for this week, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.